It showed up on the first Friday of February 2002.
And describe what you saw in that video.
That is the worst thing I've ever had to witness in my life.
Which is why I'm going to say to our listeners, this is a very disturbing video. You might have already heard the details of it. You might not have. But it's in a very upsetting video, so this is a warning to listeners and especially to parents of young children who may be listening.
Come, my children.
So I heard about this
Gather
thing
round.
as soon as I was working in my office at home, transcribing
about
with Alicia Keys, and the phone rang, and I did that. You know, I'm too busy for this.
What's going on, family? This is Jackie Luqman.
I am Abdul Shahid Luqman, the pit bull of politics, the convalescing activist, and all around, rabble-rouser, troublemaker.
Yep. And we just came back from your first, was it your first follow-up appointment?
Actually,
the
it's
second.
my third.
Oh, is it the third?
Yeah, because yep, it's actually the third.
Okay, so it's the third follow-up appointment after the health scare last week. And we just got to talk about a few things.
Right, and trust me, we're not going to bore you with with my medical issues right now. We've covered that, so now we're getting back into Luqman Nation business. Yep.
And we have the audio of what we're listening to on NPR, Fresh Air, playing because we're listening. Hey, Veronica. We're listening to the man who broke the R. Kelly story in 2002?
In 2000.
In 2000. He's being interviewed on Fresh Air right now. And we're listening to him chronicle how it has been an uphill battle for him and his partner who broke this story to work on it and report it, to investigate it, to bring R. Kelly to justice.
Right.
And just listening to the people he was talking about who defended that monster, so-called black leaders.
Yeah.
You know, who did
like
he say? Jesse Jackson and the religious community. Black Radio defended R. Kelly against these accusations of sexual abuse of children as young as 14 years old for a decade. It's almost been 2 decades now. It's finally coming to light, and how we have had to, this is what we've got to fight against. We got to fight against these kinds of things, these kinds of people preying on us in our own community. Why? Because we are so stuck on symbolism.
Right.
People were so mad. Oh my God, how could you say that about R. Kelly? You just trying to attack a black man. You just trying to bring a black man down. This black man was using his fame, his money, his influence, and his power to abuse, not just sexually, which is bad enough, but emotionally and physically, young girls. And for decades, people defended this man because we are stuck on symbolism.
Yeah, and Jackie, I'm glad that you set it up like that, because here we are again in a society that worships celebrity. You know, if you're a celebrity, I mean, most of us done sold our morals. We done sold of what we know of right and wrong. We give people a pass if they're making money.
Yeah.
You know, so if you got someone that's making money, then, you know, we kind of, there's many of us who give these type of people a pass, even though they're horrible people.
Yeah.
You know, R. Kelly should have been locked up 20 years ago when that video came out, you know. And so here he is now. I think he just got charged with 11 new counts.
11 new counts of charges filed against him.
Right. And so, you know, but this thing of, you know, we have to, as much as we call out racism, as much as we call out things that surround the racism and the oppression of black people and brown people, there's a time when you have to own your own stuff. There's a time when we as black people have to own our own stuff. there's plenty of times when many of us are on the wrong side of the issue, and we cannot point the finger at anyone except ourselves. You know, this is not respectability. This is just plain right and wrong. The fact that we have shown to the world, and when I say we, I'm talking about the black community, that we have shown the world that black girls don't matter.
Two black people.
Two black people, exactly. So, you know, so here you have a guy who's been preying upon black girls for almost 20 years now, maybe 20 years, that because he's still out there doing it. We just learned on the broadcast that he's living with two young women now up in Trump Towers in Chicago, where witnesses have, where people who were witnessing the situation said that he mentally and physically abused them if they, you know, disobey whatever effed up rules that he has. And so, but see, these women now are 19 and 20 years old. They're technically adults. And maybe might be some legal thing there where, you know, it might be hard for law enforcement to go in there and do anything about it. But at the same time, we can't.
Sorry, helicopters.
Yeah, that's all it is, DC. You know?
Yeah.
So, but yeah, but I mean, but there's, you know, this symbolism that you know, if you're a black celebrity and you're somehow popular, or you're making money, or, you know, somehow that dismisses, you know, the horrible things that some of these people do.
Yeah, I mean, and R. Kelly is like the extreme case, I think. Like, what? That's one end of the spectrum. That's the problem with celebrity worship, especially among black people. And this is not to say that other people don't do this bull with celebrity worship. Because, look, white people in this Bernie Sanders worship is getting on my nerves. It really is. You can't criticize anything Sanders says that he could say better. Any idea that he expresses that he could express better with all of his experience without people coming after you, you know, calling you a troll, saying you're a Russian agent, and you know, just people getting all emotional because they think you're attacking their Saint Bernie. Y'all need to grow up with this foolishness. But let's get back to black folks in this celebrity worship mess. Because R. Kelly, like we said, he's one extreme example as far as social, let's say social issues are concerned. The other example is Barack Obama, as far as politics is concerned. We were so stuck on the symbolism of having a black man in the White House with a black wife and a black family. And that was important. Yes, historically, that was important. But we stayed stuck on that symbolism the whole 8 years. And we didn't move past the symbolism of, okay, this racist ass country elected a black man to be president of the United States. We didn't move past that symbolism to, okay, bruh, now what you gonna do for these oppressed people who gave you 98%? Who 98% of us gave you our vote. We voted for you. What now what are you going to do for us? And when he didn't do anything differently for us than any other white politician did for us, and then when we saw that he didn't do anything differently for corporations and the military industrial complex and for law enforcement and for everybody else with money that every other white politician did, we still stayed stuck on that symbolism, a whole lot of us. Because you still can't criticize Barack Obama to a lot of people.
That's true. And the symbolism that came with Barack Obama was even more damaging, I think, and I'll explain why, is the fact that having Barack Obama, a man of color, you know, and it's racist in a way. I'm going to tell you why it's racist in a way. Because Barack Obama has a white mother, right? He came out of the womb of a white woman. His father is African, but he is basically biracial. So we're still actually giving legitimacy to the racist founding fathers' explanation that if you got one drop of black blood, then that makes you black. You know, so that's one issue. Where, you know, the other issue is that the symbolism is even more damaging, because it actually convinced not only a lot of us as black people, as the black electorate, but it convinced a lot of white people that, racism's over.
Oh yeah.
So, because actuality, Barack Obama couldn't have won without white votes, because we just don't have the numbers to have elected him as president by ourselves.
All by ourselves.
Right. So it took white people a lot to get him in office, but that also lulled the nation to sleep when it came to racial issues. So it was like, well, what are you complaining for? You got a black president now. As if that just erases hundreds of years of slavery, Jim Crow, failed Reconstruction, redlining, medical experiments that you can that is online with what Mengele did in Germany, to those in the concentration camps. All of these things which have prevented black people from obtaining any kind of real assimilation in this country. And when I say simulation, I'm talking about cultural simulation, where we became part of the American fabric and was able to basically pursue life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. So this lulled everybody to sleep, and then it lulled black people to sleep, because then we started buying into the hype by saying, well, we got Barack Obama now. But then there was this other side. And the other side was, with black people, was, okay, we got him in there. We don't want to make white people mad to ask for we because we've heard silly things from some black people like, well, he can't do anything for us because they'll kill him. Well, I mean, who would kill him? You know what I mean? That's number one. Who would kill him? And then number two, it was this thing like, okay, now we have to protect him. So in protecting him, we have to deny ourselves and not make white people think that, he's just going to just open up the treasure house and just started, just handing us a whole bunch of stuff.
Right. Give all the black people, all this free stuff, which is what, the scare tactics and the truly racist attacks against them that came from the GOP and the Tea Party. Yeah, that's what all that garbage was based in, their racism. But we were so stuck on protecting him from their racism that we didn't hold him accountable for what his job was supposed to be. I mean, he was the president for all America except for us.
Well, we was reminded that constantly.
All the time. Whenever black people ask for something, look, what are you going to do about X, Y, and Z that particularly affects black people? Well, he's not the president just to black people. He's the president of all America.
Right.
But black people could never get anything to address our specific issues, just like we couldn't out of anybody else. I mean, so politically, symbolism, and the Democratic Party continues to do that. They're doing that again with trotting out Joe Biden.
Oh goodness, yeah.
And they are, before they convinced him to run again, Kamala Harris was their choice because she's a black woman. Trust me. The Democratic Party is not anointing anybody as their preferred candidate because of their policies.
Right.
They are picking a candidate that they are going to push forward using a calculation that they think this is the person who is most likely to be able to defeat Trump in the general election. Defeating Trump is the only thing the Democratic Party is paying any attention to whatsoever. Joe Biden, they are banking on the symbolism of Joe Biden being Barack Obama's vice president for 8 years. And that is what they believe is going to push a lot of black folk to come out and vote for Joe Biden.
Right.
Our job in Luqman Nation is to set all that facade of symbolism on fire and dig into this man's record. And that's not just our job, but it's the job of every independent journalist outside of the mainstream media outlet that is now calling people who are progressive Democrats in the party, now calling them liberals and quote unquote leftists. Oh, that's ridiculous. As a type of insult, because people are criticizing Joe Biden's actual record, which is horrible. Student loan debt, the reason student loan debt is as bad as it is, thank Joe Biden for that. Thank Biden for voting for that. The crime bill, he wrote it. He was one of the co-authors of it. So he knew exactly what was going to happen.
Vigorously defended it and unapologetic about it to this day.
To this day, treated Anita Hill like a criminal at Clarence Thomas's confirmation hearings. Said that the Supreme Court went too far with Roe versus Wade, that a woman really doesn't have a right to decide for herself what she can do with her own body. Sided with the segregationists. He actually sought out the help of segregationists to stop busing. I mean, so this is Joe Biden's actual body of work. This is not, but the Democratic Party and Joe Biden himself doesn't want you to pay any attention to his actual body of work. They just want you to focus on the symbolism that Biden was the vice president of the first black president of the United States of America for 8 years, and we can't afford to do that. And that's on the political front. But then there's this other kind of symbolism that people pay attention to that we got to fight against, that serves capitalism in such an insidious way, especially for black folks. What happened this week with Jay-Z and Forbes?
Well, I want to go back to Biden for a minute, because Biden to me represents the old white liberal paternalism that has always been an obstacle for for a lot of us black people when it comes to progress in this country. It was always the white liberal paternalism that, you know, would smile in your face and be like, I'll look out for you. I'll look out for you. Now, slow down now. Slow down. You know, we don't want to rush it now, you know. And so it's that white paternalism, that liberal paternalism that's pretending to be our friend, but at the same time, really is giving the wink and nod to the segregationists, giving a wink and nod to the racists, and basically saying, look, we'll keep a lid on their aspirations. You know, we'll keep it, you know, we don't, I'm not so, I don't want them back on the plantation in chains picking cotton, but at the same time, I don't think that they belong in the same schools with your kids, and I don't believe that they belong, so there has to be this social order that I'm willing to help maintain.
Yeah. And see, they'll make the argument, if they don't say that kind of thing, exactly what you just said, we don't want them in they shouldn't go to schools with their kids. See, they won't say stuff like this, the Biden type of liberals. What they'll say is stuff like, well, integration should happen and segregation is wrong, but I don't think the federal government is the one to decide, or that it should be done, or I don't think the federal government should force the states to do it. The reason federal laws exist is because states refuse to act justly on behalf of the citizens of those states. So the federal government has to step in and do what's right when state governments are literally saying, well, if people are killing y'all, what are we going to do about that?
Exactly.
I mean, so you're right. It is that kind of just disgusting white supremacist, white male paternalism that is endemic in so many of these old guard Democrats. We ain't talking about Republicans here. We're talking about the Democrats. Y'all got to look at, we're going to share an article from Norman Solomon, who I worked with on The Real News. Norman Solomon's a real cool guy. He wrote an article about Joe Biden's record that is full of just links to all of the crappy, horrendous, destructive legislation that he has either co-authored or voted for or was involved in, that we are still dealing with today. So we're going to share that when we get back. But what you said, though, about we have to limit their aspirations.
Well, that's what the Democratic Party has been doing ever since we switched sides. We were once Republicans, and when we switched sides as an electorate and became in the Democrat Party camp, that has always been the job of both parties since we were allowed to even participate in the political process of this country, is that both parties done the same thing: limit our aspirations.
Right.
Whether it was Teddy Roosevelt when we were Republicans then, when we voted overwhelmingly Republican, when it was Teddy Roosevelt who refused to do anything about the mass lynchings of black people.
Yep.
When it came to Franklin Roosevelt with the New Deal, how we weren't really included in that. We weren't included in those policies. And how the federal government refused to do anything about the effects of redlining and all the other economic policies that were designed to have to make sure that white Americans were able to achieve prosperity, but also ensured that black people didn't achieve at least economic parity.
Right.
And see, that's the thing. At least with economic parity, when it comes to white people, which is ridiculous, because when you have two different when black people started out working for free and white people didn't start out working for free, and I'm talking about for generations, then there's no such thing as parity. But there could have been government policy that would have kind of like, lessened the pain of the economic disenfranchisement that we were going through. But this is but this has always been, Jackie, that both parties are guilty of this, of limiting our aspirations. Whether it was the white liberal telling us when we really were saying, hey, look, in the 60s, we're tired of being second-class citizens, and we had white liberals tell us, well, you're pushing too quickly.
Right.
You're
this
pushing,
is the way to do it.
Yeah, you're pushing too quickly, or you're going to be, and that those same arguments by the white liberal class, for the most part, is still being used against us today when it comes to reparations. Oh, you're going to alienate your white allies, or you're going to, or it's going to harm racial relations because you want to be treated like citizens.
Right. We want to finally reap the benefits of this citizenship that we were told we had in the Constitution, but we in the way we live and the way we experience through our experiences in this country, we know that we are not actually citizens.
Exactly.
We do not reap the benefits of citizenship in this country because all citizens ain't treated like us. All the other citizens of this country, they ain't treated like we're treated. Right. All
you have to do is look at, and we've put this out on the table at Luqman Nation plenty of times, as well as others. When you look at statistically the state of Black America, how can you call us citizens? I mean, really, how can you call us citizens when we're at the bottom of every group, every demographic group in this country, whether it's economically, whether it's educationally, whether it's healthcare. You list everything. I think the only thing that we might be above everybody is our representation when it comes to sports. And entertainment and those type of things. And even then, the ones who making all the money off of that are white people.
We still make the least amount of money.
Yeah. So I mean, so there is no way that you could look at the most prosperous nation on this planet and look at those of us who are considered citizens, Black Americans who are considered citizens, and say, well, how are those people citizens? Because I mean, when you look at what's happening today, when you look at that these issues that was supposed to be addressed by Brown versus Board of Education, that was supposed to be addressed by all of these landmark legal cases.
Voting Rights Act, the Housing Equality Act, and the Civil Rights Act of 54, and all this. Yeah,
so when you look at all of those things and say, well, why is it that these things persist? Dr. Boyce Watkins, who gets it right sometimes, most times, but I had to agree with him on this, is that when we look around, especially as I travel around, that Jackie and I travel around, and we go to every major urban center that has large Black populations, and you see the same thing. You see high unemployment. You see neglect. You see crumbling schools. You see police brutality, over policing. I mean, all of these things you see everywhere you go. So as Dr. Boyce Watkins said in one of his streams, which I agree with, that's a system.
Right.
So that's a system. When you can go down to Haiti and see how the Haitians are fighting just to be able to live each day. When you go over to Africa, we just posted a story on our timeline about Africa producing 75% of the world's cocoa and only receiving 2% of the profits. That is a system.
Now, you mentioned cocoa. How many of y'all thought that cocoa actually came from like Switzerland? Because the most popular brand of cocoa we are familiar with is Swiss Miss.
Right.
Cocoa don't come from Switzerland, y'all. Cocoa comes from Africa, most of it. But the people that produce that thing that most people, because I don't like chocolate all that much, so that ain't me drinking it. But Africa doesn't receive most of the benefits from producing this delicious treat that is labeled by European and American companies, so that the connection to that product is European and American companies. So most people don't even realize that the base product for those corporations to make cocoa comes from African countries.
Well, a lot of people don't understand that Ghana, during the when Kwame Nkrumah was the president of Ghana, this fight for cocoa goes way back. And during the when Ghana received its independence, Ghana was one of the largest producers of cocoa in the world under when Kwame Nkrumah was president. Kwame Nkrumah was one of the most famous Pan-Africanists. You know, and he fought with the British and with other with the Western markets of trying to get a fair price. And he went as far as refusing to export Ghanaian cocoa, and he let it rot in the warehouses. And some of the people who were around at the time said that you could smell cocoa almost throughout the entire country, because he would let it rot as opposed to bow to imperialist demands that he sell his cocoa for nothing. You know, so this impoverishment, this pillaging of Africa, the pillaging of resources, the pillaging of the people, and the pillaging of those Africans like us in the diaspora, those of us who are working in America who's not getting our fair wages, those of us who are being shepherded into occupations that don't have health care, that are being shepherded into occupations where we're working longer hours and getting less and less pay. You know, this is pillaging. I mean, this is pillaging. This is exploitation. And it's, pardon me. And this is, no, I got mine right here. And this is happening all over the world. So yes, I mean, symbolism, one of the things that other communities have understood that we as Africans, no matter where we reside, have not understood. Symbolism does not equal success. Symbolism does not equal progress. So, okay, you can't say that the first white man that walked the moon is, okay, we're good. No, but let's go to Mars. You know, let's develop, you know, let's go further. Let's develop this, let's develop that, and let the benefits of that white man going to Mars, or the technology and the brain power that goes behind that, let's see how that would benefit benefit the rest. Right. So the technology and the medical science and everything that went around the space program, you know, that went beyond, you know, seeing the guy on the moon with a flag. And see, black people, we have been pacified to the fact that we feel like symbolism actually equals progress, and it doesn't. We know that Barack Obama's presidency has not only we haven't progressed as a group, we actually regressed. We regressed economically as a group. Exactly. No. So what I was saying is, as we go into the other things of why we have to get away from symbolism. Symbolism does not equal progress, and it does not equal success, because Barack Obama's presidency did not create any more wealth. We lost wealth under Barack Obama. R. Kelly making selling hundreds of millions of records did not increase any black person's bank account. Nope. It did not ensure that politicians respected our aspirations anymore, or that they created policies that would ensure that we have what everybody else has in order to advance in this society. None of these things. And I'm going to even go further, and I might get some flack for this, but then there was a story out about the largest class of black women graduating from West Point. And everybody celebrated that. And on the surface, yes, that's a fine thing. On the surface, that looks like a very good thing. But when you dig beneath the surface, and trust me, you don't have to dig very deep, you find out that this is nothing again but symbolism, but it makes us look foolish. You know why it makes us look foolish? We have the largest class of black women graduating from West Point that's going to lead. Because when you come out of West Point, you're just not a soldier.
Right, you're an officer.
Yeah, you're an officer. So you're going to be leading in the most racist, militaristic, imperialistic military machine on the planet. And none of that translates for all of those black women that's graduating out of West Point. None of that translates to any tangible gains for the communities that they came from. But then that's the thing. You don't get the West Point coming out of Southeast DC. You don't get the West Point coming out of Camden, New Jersey. You don't get the West Point coming out of a lot of these things. See, we have to deal with class too. And so a lot of us who have entered these things, these positions like West Point and all those things, most of them have not even had those type of experiences. Right. But again, as America is celebrating the largest class of black women coming out of West Point, trust me, that does not translate to tangible gains for the black community, just like our participation in World War II didn't, just like our participation in the Revolutionary War didn't, just like our participation in World War I didn't, just like all of the wars that black people have participated in the country war have never really translated to tangible gains for our community, and this won't either.
I mean, that is an excellent point. Because throughout our history here, you had mentioned earlier about Reconstruction, and I just want to make one correction to what you said. Reconstruction wasn't failed. Reconstruction was sabotaged.
Okay.
Reconstruction was sabotaged. If the racists had not sabotaged the Reconstruction effort, then we would be in a different position in this country as people, as actual citizens. We wouldn't even be. If Reconstruction had been left alone to do its job, we wouldn't even be having this conversation. Correct. I believe, to a large degree. But history is what it is. History happened the way it has, and here we are. So black people have perpetually, continually, at every opportunity, because we saw them as opportunities to show this country that we deserve to be treated as citizens in this country. We thought, well, if we fight for this country, if we lay down our lives for this country, if we shed our blood for this country, in defense of this country in war, then surely this country will treat us better.
That has always been the aspiration of our community. And
that has never happened in the course of all of the wars that we have fought. So that's why this instance, this particular graduating class of West Point, the most black women, largest number of black women in the graduating class of West Point. Yeah, individually it's great for them, but as a people, it changes nothing for us, because I'm sure these young women don't see the United States military and the United States as an empire.
And that's unfortunate.
As the empire.
And that's unfortunate.
And the empire that needs to end. And that's unfortunate.
And that's unfortunate. I'm sorry. That's unfortunate. I missed my cue. Yeah.
But it's still an empire. This is still the empire. So now these women are they're just guardians of the empire. That's all they are. I'm sure they don't see themselves as that way. And like you said, we probably gonna get some flack for that. But it's still true.
Well, they don't also see and we don't understand how the way that they report this is that we're being played. Because there is, see, one of the things that white supremacy does is the fact that it loves the divide and conquer game. So now what it is you're promoting this large class of black women, and you're making it already adversarial when it comes to black men.
That right.
So we're talking about, well, black women are progressing, and then you'll find people who don't think deeply saying that, well, then why isn't a lot of black men going to West Point? Or why is it that these black women are able to go to college? Because I've heard this years ago. Mm-hmm. More and more black women are going to college and black men aren't. And then so instead of us as a community saying, well, why is that? Then we start getting, then we start going into camps. Oh, pro-black woman, look what we're doing our thing. Mm-hmm. Well, any community can't succeed when the house is divided. And see, this is the thing. Mm-hmm. When the house is divided, it's not that it's a bad thing, that a lot of black women found themselves in college. But the thing of it is, what we have to ask is, well, why aren't the black men coming?
Right.
Is it, and so instead of us asking what is preventing them from coming along with us, we start saying, well, there must be something wrong with them.
Right. Right. Well, if they weren't so lazy, if they were but then that's where the system comes in, and too many people don't recognize this as a system. These are systemic issues that we're dealing with. And as far as this graduating class of West Point is concerned, the question is not, well, where are all the black men at West Point? The question is, why is any black person going to West Point? Every black person should get the hell out of West Point and the Naval Academy and all of the military and the Citadel. And why are you fighting for this empire that is not going to fight? You going to get some benefits. You and your, but see, we say all the time, we have to adopt a worldview that is different from a singular, isolationist, individualist European worldview. A Pan-African worldview considers us a part of the whole. As long as you're looking at yourself as what you can do for yourself and your family, you're going to continue to think that the crumbs that the empire can throw at you while it's on its way down and out are good things. There's another example of that, I think. And this is always a sticky thing because, we like entertainment as much as the next person. Of course,
yes, we do.
And we particularly love hip hop. We are old school hip hop heads. But Forbes, I guess Jay-Z was just added to Forbes billionaires list, I guess, because now Jay-Z is a new billionaire, and you got black folks all over social media celebrating this foolishness. And I'm asking a couple of people, so I don't understand why you're so excited. Is your mortgage being paid by Jay-Z being a billionaire? Are your medical bills being paid? We just came from him being in the hospital. I'm waiting for the medical bills to come in the mail now. Jay-Z is not going to pay our medical bills.
No, he's not.
Jay-Z being a billionaire is not going to pay our mortgage. Jay-Z being a billionaire is not going to pay our bills. If we had, well, actually, we do have student loans. Jay-Z ain't going to pay off our student loans. I mean, it's like, I don't understand why we're celebrating one person being a billionaire as if that adds anything to our life, our collective life as a people in this country. Jay-Z being a billionaire does nothing for the material condition of black people in this country.
Well, I take Neely Fuller Jr.'s view that black people should not celebrate at all anything until we get our house in order. We should not be celebrating at all. Now, that doesn't mean that we can't that we can't feel inspired, that we can't feel encouraged by certain things, but to celebrate symbolism makes us look foolish to the world. It makes us look foolish to celebrate, because see, Jay-Z's billions, along with Dr. Dre's billions, and let's take Dr. Dre. Dr. Dre was a billionaire before Jay-Z, and Dr. Dre, instead of supporting HBCUs, gave a whole bunch of millions to USC. So what we see is that a lot of times when we have these black billionaires and millionaires, they don't support black institutions, and then Jay-Z's billions, along with Dr. Dre's billions, along with Oprah billions, all of it is contingent upon whether you are still in the good graces of white people.
Right.
Oprah will never come out against anything that severely impacts black people, because she knows that she made her billions off of white people liking her. And she knows that the moment that she comes out on the side of that when she goes too far into the tunnel, that she understands that she is at risk of losing that support. Jay-Z knows the same thing. Dr. Dre knows the same thing. So no matter what their bank account says, they are still beholden to the white power structure. So we could, as a community, we could never really count on them to advocate for any significant policy. Oprah would get up there and talk about Me Too. The Me Too movement. Oprah would get up there and talk about, Save the Shrimp and all this other kind of stuff. Oprah would get up there and talk about, we need to have girls' education and all this stuff, because that don't really piss off the white power structure. First of all, to get up there and say that we want education for girls, that don't piss off the white power structure, because they want you divided. So yeah, okay, girl, yeah. So So the thing of it is that they understand that their money and their wealth is based upon whether they remain in favor with the white power structure. If Jay-Z tomorrow came out and was to have a radical change in thought, a radical change in the way that he conducts his politics, trust me, the media, everything that is under the white power structure, the white elite power structure, will turn against him.
Yep. If any of those people who, Charlotte, thank you for saying that Jay-Z is a capitalist. If any of those people were to come out tomorrow, this afternoon, and say, you know what, capitalism is killing black people in this country and around the world. We need to advocate for more socialist policies. Capitalism needs to be dismantled. I'm all for people making their money, but I shouldn't have all this money, and most of my people have nothing. I know nobody should have to struggle like this. People shouldn't have to donate money to a community to build a school. That shouldn't happen.
Right.
If any of these people came out today, tomorrow, next week, and said, you know what, you shouldn't get, whether you get quality health care shouldn't depend on how much money you have. I'm for Medicare for all. I'm for single payer. And I'm going to bankroll any candidate who is advocating for pushing those policies. Trust us, the media would turn on those people, and their little stock portfolios would nosedive, and they would no longer be held up as the standard to which we are to aspire to. Because see, that's what the media does with people like Oprah, with the Oprahs and the Jay-Z's and the LeBrons. And not like I have anything personal against these people, but it's the idea that they're supposed to be the ideal that we're supposed to aspire to just because they're rich. And my question always is, well, I have nothing against people being rich. Okay, if you made the money with your talent and your gifts, that's fine. But what are you doing for the people who got you there? Not for the corporations that pay you, but what are you doing for the people who got you those riches? How much are you giving back? What are you giving back to? And that's the other question. What are you giving back to? How are you giving back? But the media, of course, doesn't ask any of these questions. They will
ask these questions. They will ask these questions once again when there is when Jay-Z and Oprah not only come out for a black agenda, not only come out for Pan-Africanist agenda, when Jay-Z and Oprah and Dr. Dre start putting their money behind it.
Right.
Then that's when the media would pretend to be the media and start digging in their background.
Right.
And then they'll start demonizing them as black identity extremists.
And looking at their tax returns.
Right,
and,
exactly.
this is how much of their money goes to administrative costs. If you've ever run an organization, you know that administrative costs actually do eat up a pretty significant chunk of the revenue of your organization. We have an organization.
Right.
We have a business. And administrative costs are literally just bills. So
that's all they are.
It's bills. It's your rent, your lease, the light bill, salaries, insurance.
Yep. Darn it.
You know, I mean, the symbolism is used like that to get people to focus on things that don't actually matter to their lives. You got people running around celebrating, yo, Jay-Z is a billionaire, young. Jay-Z is a billionaire. So what? Jay-Z is a billionaire. Jay-Z being a millionaire didn't affect my life.
Right. And see, we say these things and we celebrate these things because we still have this belief that somehow this system can work for us.
That is the key that the media and the system itself is trying to continually convey with this celebrity symbolism worship, getting us exactly to believe that you too can be like Jay-Z if you just continue to adhere to the rules of the system, if you just continue to work in the system. Don't opt for that crazy socialism. Capitalism is the way to go.
Jay-Z would have never got these billions if he was a Venezuelan. He would have never got these billions if he was Cuban.
If Jay-Z was a socialist, he would never be on the Forbes billionaires list. I mean, if we were Cuban, then we wouldn't have to be worrying about medical bills. I mean, if we were Cuban, we wouldn't have to be worried about housing costs.
Right. Or if we had a government, that that put its people first, like say like a Cuban government or other governments where they, where the people's welfare, or even European governments that practice socialized medicine. I mean, if we were just those type of governments that just didn't look at their citizens as commodities. And so that's the problem. The problem is not whether we're Cuban or Venezuelan. The problem is that we have a government that don't respect us.
Right.
We have a government that doesn't respect the citizenry. We have a government that's ran by people who actually hate its citizenry. Because you can't, when you have to have love for the people to want to rule them. Either you have love for the people. When you want to be in leadership, you either be in leadership because you have love for the people, want to see better for them, or you're in leadership because you want to, because you want to exploit and right. You want to exploit the people, and you want opportunities based upon what your position and everything gives you solely. So so it's just a means to an end.
Right.
So anyway, again, we'll end this segment with symbolism. Black people does not equal progress. And see, we have these difficult conversations because it's easy for us as Black people. It's easy for Jackie and I to sit up there and cheerlead. Oh yeah, look at the largest class of Black women coming out of West Point. Oh yeah, Jay-Z's a billionaire. Oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah. But see, when you look at the big picture, and you see that that all the billions that Jay-Z and all the rest of them have comes with a price. And behind all of those billions is still a system that will only allow them to go so far. So Jay-Z's billions, Oprah's billions, and everybody and Dr. Dre and all the rest of them does not equal liberation for Black people.
Right.
And it does not equal opportunities for Black people. All we get to do is do like we did as children, sit back and have a fairy tale storybook read to us.
Exactly. And so many of us are so invested in this symbolism driven fairy tale idea of what we're going to get in this life, in this system, that we don't question the fact that this is a system that we're being sold. I mean, this system is not the goal is not that we're all billionaires like Jay-Z and Oprah now. That's not the goal. The goal is that we have a society in which everyone has their needs met so that nobody has to celebrate somebody because they're a billionaire. Being a billionaire is not the standard. That's the goal. To live in a society in which everyone's needs are met, their needs as far as human rights are concerned, rights to housing, right to health care, right to education, right to life, right to the pursuit of happiness. And by right to life, that doesn't have anything to do with abortion. Don't get that twisted. The right to live as human beings with a decent quality and standard of life. If we live in a society in which everyone has those needs met, what care do we have that somebody is a billionaire? What difference would that make in our lives if we all have everything we need?
Well, we said this on our show one time about if you was to take America and know that capitalism is the religion of America. So when we hear news like Jay-Z being a billionaire and stuff, all they telling us is that Jay-Z had just entered the priesthood of capitalism.
Exactly. That's right.
So there's a hierarchy here, priesthood of capitalism. We're still the lay people. And we're still the lay people that's going into the capitalist church, giving our little trinkets and coins and stuff, to keep this behemoth alive while we get no benefits from it. You know what I mean? What we get is what you get when you go into a lot of times into religious institutions. We get a bunch of hope, but there's no tangible evidence. There's no tangible progress. There's nothing that we can sit back and say, wow, I did this and look what I'm, I've gave this and look what I'm getting. No, you get this esoteric, symbolic, gestures that, oh, well, don't worry, your mansion is being built somewhere.
Right.
You know what I mean? Just keep on doing. But in actuality, in the Church of Capitalism stuff, they're just letting us know, well, here's the newest member of the capitalist priesthood, which is Jay-Z. He's a billionaire.
Right.
And then you got the, the bishops and the cardinals and all that stuff, just to use those references. But until we as black people mature enough to get away from symbolism, we wasted almost a decade with Barack Obama, about a decade with Barack Obama, just being drunk off the fact that we got a black family in the White House, and he's still right now is hurting black people in the South Side of Chicago with his library and all this other kind of stuff. He is still going around the country insulting black males, and black, so all of these things. So we have to be very careful with symbolism and realize that we have to be a mature electorate and demand results, not just symbolism. I don't care if you're the first black woman running for office. I don't care if you're the first black female mayor, or you're the first black male this, or you're the first black. Then none of that matters if it doesn't translate to something that will benefit the community. First of all, black people got to start thinking like a nation. And that's what we have. We're not thinking like a nation. Don't tell me that that's somehow a radical concept, because I could take you right now to Howard Beach in New York, and those Italians there would tell you, I'm Italian.
Yep.
I'm
that's
Italian.
Right.
So
right.
I mean, it's a given that they're an American. You know what I mean? There's a given, but they won't call themselves American first. You go to Howard Beach, or you go to South Philly, where I've been through a few times, they'll tell you straight up, oh, no, yo, I'm Italian. Yeah, I'm Italian. You go to other places, man, I'm Polish, I'm German.
Right. I'm Irish, I'm Russian.
Right. But they never mention the American first, because it's a given that they're American. They're here. So it's the same way with African people in this country. You have to start thinking like a nation. And when you start thinking like a nation, then you start cooperating with each other like a nation. And then you stop buying into the bull crap that you can navigate through this through the muddy, corrupt, polluted waters of this white supremacist systems and institutions by yourself. All you need is just a flashlight and some goggles, and
and you're gonna be like Jay-Z. You're gonna be float to the top. That's not. This system is not set up so that we all reap the benefits of this system. This system is set up to do precisely what it's doing right now, allowing a few of us to move through the cracks so they can be used as symbols to lull the rest of us to sleep, to keep us in line, and to keep us aspiring to nothing more than what is within the confines of this system. That's it. That's why, and we really do have to end on this, because that's why you don't hear from old head hip hop artists who are political and even revolutionary and so-called radical, like KRS-One, like heck, even Wu-Tang. I mean, like Public Enemy, like all those other folks who have and who always did have a vision of black people operating as a nation outside of this white supremacist capitalist society that could never have been allowed to catch on. That's why you got the garbage we have now on the radio that calls itself hip hop. That's why they're doing documentaries on Wu-Tang and because they are a part of our history, but there's also this resurgence of these revolutionary ideas of socialism and collectivism that are becoming popular again in the United States. And now folks are having to go back to the architects of it, at least in this country, and that is the people who've always struggled against this system. It's black folks.
Yeah, I wanted to just say this just at end point because I think that this kind of sums up our condition here and our situation in this country. Dr. Amos Wilson, one of the late Dr. Amos Wilson, one of the premier black psychologists that this country has ever produced, once stated that black inferiority black inferiority is a social and political necessity in this country. So but it's the same question when James Baldwin asked, why does America need the nigger?
Man, I mean, think on that.
Yep.
Think on that. The reason we believe the things we do about ourselves, the reason we are so susceptible to these symbols being held up as to what we're supposed to aspire to is because we've been conditioned to believe that we can't be anything better than that. That we've been conditioned to believe that we are inferior. And for this system to survive, it has to be that way. We have to be conditioned to believe that. None of this is an accident. Now, our condition in this country, our mindset that we're trying to work our way out of, all of what we fight against, none of it is an accident. It's a system. It's intentional. But that's why Luqman Nation has always existed, to do what we have been doing. And that's why we'll keep doing it.
So please share this video. Please share this video. And we welcome your comments. Mm-hmm. And we'll see you on our next broadcast.
Yeah. And just before we go, Lisa Catlett, hey, we see you. And Delonte Boyd, our friend, my bud, hey, man, it's good to see you.
Yeah.
Thanks, y'all, for joining us. We will see you soon. Be good to each other. And as always, peace, if you're willing to fight for it.